All right, what is up? My favorite people on the planet, Hub volunteers. I want to just come with a little bit of some future vision. Hopefully this won't be too long, but I wanted to give you a glimpse into some changes that we want to make going forward. If you've been serving for any length of time, you know that in the past what we've done is essentially asked you a couple questions. Do you want to serve with middle school or high school? When do you go to LBS? Because we want to make sure that you fit that in your schedule. So how many times during a given month do you want to serve? We ask those questions because we want you to have balance. And hear me clearly, we want you to continue to have balance. This is not where I swoop in and ask you to serve 52 Sundays a year. But if you'd like to, just let me know. No, the goal is to try to shift up the strategy, and here's why. Before coronavirus came and ruined our whole year, I had a plan to begin a new structure of small groups that were more, small groups. The goal was to have a couple adults essentially shepherd a small group of students, not in so much like this big, you're in this room and you're teaching a lesson, you're standing up here and it's kind of lecture format to a group of students who are just listening. And sure, there's some question and answer and stuff like that. But here's my vision for where I want to take us with small groups, because the goal isn't to just get Sundays done and move on with our life, checking off the I served in the student ministry box. The goal is to pass off our faith and shepherd a group of teenagers through some of the most formative years of their life, through some of the most dangerous years of their life. There's a lot going on, and Satan went ahead and threw in a pandemic. What I want to be able to do with our student ministry, and some of you have heard me talk about this, to pair off some students with a few loving, caring adults that are going to be their small group leader. And here's how we want to do it. First off, we have girls and we have boys, and then we have middle schoolers and high schoolers. The goal is going to be for some of you to be middle school girls, small group leaders. The goal is for some of you to be high school girls, small group leaders. And so here's what we want to do. Currently, we run these 2 hours of LBS, and we've done that because it's what works. But before COVID, you know that we had a middle school hour at 9:45 and a high school hour at 11:15. And that was working perfectly fine in a certain way. In COVID, now that we have relaunched the hub, we wanted to partner with families and be able to say, whether you have a 6th grader or a 12th grader, they can come either of the hours, just to make it easier on them. But I want to give you kind of a glimpse into what I'd like to see happen as soon as possible. We moved to this system, so we've got middle school girls and middle school guys, and then you have high school girls and high school guys. Each small group will have, between 2 and 4 leaders each. And the truth is that I think that that's probably all we can do right now. With our space limitations, it's not like we can break out into 6th grade boys and 6th grade girls and 7th grade boys and 7th grade girls. Although I want to tell you, that's the long-term vision. That's where we want to head. But here's where we are right now. Here's what I think we can do. Let's see if you can see this. In the future, when we do go back to a middle school hour and a high school hour, and let's just say it's the old schedule, and it's and we'll have an 8:30 service where we have no hub going on. But if this is a middle school hour, we'll split into guys and girls groups. Man, my handwriting is atrocious. But the girls group would probably stay in the blue room and the guys group would come in the orange room. And that's that goal. Now, none of that is a huge seismic shift, because all that means is we're going to split the girls and the guys up. But here's where I want to kind of twist up our understanding of when we serve in the student ministry. Instead of you saying, I would like to serve 1 Sunday a month or 2 Sundays a month or 4 Sundays a month. I'd like to serve in the first hour because I have LBS in the second hour. Here's what I want you to start thinking about, okay? I want you to start thinking about, change my color for this one. I want you to start thinking about you and 2 or 3 or 4 other leaders joining up with one of these groups. So let's say I'm a middle school boys small group leader. It's Mark Cox. Let's say it's Zach Stallings. Let's say it's Dimitri Stafford. Let's say it's Charlie Weems. Whatever the case is. And the goal for that moment is going to be, and this is going to be a transition for us because we have reasons we serve, when we serve, and with what age group. So I understand that, but I just want you to get thinking about kind of where we're headed. The goal goal is going to be to serve with this group of guys. And instead of me saying, here's when you're scheduled, and make sure that you study for your lesson. Instead of all of that, what we're going to start doing is looking at you guys and saying, we're not going to schedule you. We want you guys to cover that group, okay? So let me say, if all 4 of you show up one Sunday, it's great. It's great. It's fine. If 2 of you show up one Sunday, it's awesome. If none of you show up one Sunday, that's a problem. We're going to need to deal with that. But the idea is going to be this. Instead of, and I want you to help poke holes in this system with me, but the goal is not just to change up the system because I'm bored. I promise you, I'm not that bored. But the goal is this. These middle school guys are going to get some small group leaders who love and care for them. And it's going to be the same small group leaders every week. So if it's these guys, once a month, it's going to be those same guys with them. And so they're going to be able to build relationships. In a perfect world, here's where I'm really headed, and I've hinted at this before. If you are a 6th grade boys small group leader, down the road when we have space to do that, you would be the 7th grade boys small group leader when they graduate into 7th and on 8 and 9. And by the time they are a senior, they will have had 6 or 7 years to build up love and trust. And I want to tell you, a senior in high school to be able to trust their small group leader more than just walking into a room and hearing a lecture, I think is incredibly valuable in the life of a teenager. Because again, what are we here to do? We're here to guide students to experience life in Jesus Christ. And the best way to do that is to form trusting, loving, caring relationships with these students. And I want to tell you, as a student myself, there were guys that showed up in my life every single week, and I learned that I could call on them. I learned that I could trust them. I learned that I could share exactly what was going on in my life. I knew that they weren't going to go run and tell my parents about all the ugly stuff I did Friday night, unless it was dangerous, unless I was going to harm myself. We can talk about all that disclaimer and fine print later. But here's the goal. The goal is not to change the system. Again, we have plenty of other things to worry about. But let me tell you the heart behind this. When we went into COVID season and we were no longer gathering with our students in person, what I realized happened was we didn't have a system in place for one volunteer to shepherd that person's small group. It was just kind of like, well, I come in and it's all the students. It's all the middle schoolers. It's all the high schoolers. We didn't have a plan in place to get you guys phone numbers and email addresses and social media handles. And I want to tell you, that's on me, and I own that. But we're not going to let that happen anymore. The goal is going to be for you to have a small group, a true small group of students that look to you for guidance. And here's what I'm asking. I'm asking if you are even considering this, I want you to consider, can I get down with this big long-term vision? I know that changes happen. I know that you may move and you may say, well, I can't move because I've got to finish out my 12th grade. That's not what I'm after here. What I'm after here is that best case scenario, you have a loving, caring adult that walks with a group of 6th grade boys. And listen, they're awkward as 6th grade boys. But you know what? By the time they're seniors, that foundation will have been built. And in a very integral moment in their life, they'll be able to look at those few small group leaders who said, I trust that person. I trust their input. I trust their advice. And I want to tell you, just so you know how this works, as a dad of 3 boys, I want people in my kids' life, because I know there's going to be a day they listen to that small group leader and they do not listen to me. It's already kind of started and I already kind of hate it. If you have teenagers, you know this. You know that you want some of these other men and women who have wisdom and experience and have spiritual strength pouring into the life of your kids. I want that for mine, I want that for yours, and I want it for our students. So I know this is chicken scratch, but hopefully you get the picture. Instead of having just 2 groups, middle school and high school, as soon as possible, I want us to move to middle school girls and middle school guys. I want to give you a little bit of a hint as to when I think this is going to happen. Whenever we move back to a 3-service system, it's just my guess. Listen, nothing's in concrete. We don't even have a date. It'll probably be 2021 before this happens. But the day that we move back to this system, we'll move back to a middle school hour and a high school hour. And the goal at that point will be to split this group up. We'll all hang out and do all that kind of fun stuff. But when it's time for teaching, there'll be a class in here and there'll be a class in the blue room. And there'll be the same students in those small groups. So there will only be that group of adults with the middle school girls. And there will only be that group of adults and the middle school guys. The goal won't be, well, I can't serve my hour this week, so can I serve in the middle school? The goal is going to be the same adults with the same students week in and week out. Smaller groups so that we can build relationships and build trust. I'm sure you have holes that you need to poke in the plan, and I need my engineers to help me out with that. So contact me in any way you know how. Just text me. 614-969-8601 is my cell phone number, and I would love to hear whatever is wrong with my plan. But I do want to say this, maybe as a little bit of an added punch at the end. I ran a system for 7 years where we had 14 different groups, 6th grade boys, 6th grade girls, 7th grade boys, 7th grade girls. And the results that you see at 12th grade are the results that you want for your kids. And I think it's the results that you want for our students in the Hub Student Ministry. So I've been in student ministry for a while. This is the best system I've ever run, and I want to run it here. And so hopefully you can get down with that. Now, next steps for you, I want you to start thinking. You don't know what the plan is. Like, if Mark doesn't know when we're going to go back to 3 services, of course you don't. But the goal is going to be to say, well, if my LBS meets here, maybe I need to be a high school and I'm a guy or I'm a girl. Let's just do guys with guy groups and girls with girl groups. Seems simple enough. My LBS meets at 9:45, so I'll serve in the Hub. And you're like, well, what happens if I start at 10? Do I still go all the way through 12? Well, we're not split up. We're just high school guys and high school girls right now. So we'll figure that out as we go along. But the goal is for you to start thinking about which of these 4 groups do I want to commit to? And I used that word, commit. I don't want you bailing in the middle, right? I want you to say, this is the group I'm going to serve. So be thinking about it. Contact me. If you got problems with this, if you're like, I don't want to do this, talk to me. That's fine. But this is the direction that we're headed, and I'm excited about it. Thank you so much for serving in the Hub. We super appreciate you. Let us know what you think.